Hello everyone, this is Emmanuel Kadri, your regular host on Breaking to Tech, and you're welcome to this video. In this video on Python programming, and in the series that we've been dealing with, which is the conditional branching in Python, we are going to be talking about nested if statements. Well, nested if statements is just a situation whereby we have an if condition that is under an existing if condition. I'm going to just show you how it looks like and then how to work around it. Let's say we have, let's say we intend to write a program or to write a code that that deals with score, or maybe that tells you your grade, or if you have a particular score or something like that. Let me just create something. Let's just create something randomly. Okay, all right. Now, let's say inputs. Okay, sorry. I need to assign a variable. Subject. All right. Subject is equal to input. Then you open this, you put the prompt there. All right. And then you just tell the user or maybe the teacher, let's say peradventure you want to develop a little app that just tells the students or the teacher or whoever, it just tells them, or that encourages a kid to study well, provided he or she doesn't meet up with a particular score or whatever. I'm just thinking of something. Okay, don't worry, you just follow me through. I'm sure I will reach somewhere. Okay, so let's go. Now we said subject is equal to input. Please enter your subject. Enter your subject. Okay, so I don't need to cast this one because subject is something like, okay, physics, chemistry, biology, maths, English, or whatever is it. Subject is just subject and is a string, is text. So I don't need to cast it. I don't need to convert it into something, because naturally whatever comes out of input statement comes out as a string. So since what I need to also receive from the user is a string, so I don't need to cast it. Then I move on. I say subject equals input. Please enter your subject. And then I say score, another variable score, okay, is input. I know I need to cast this, but I want to explain something. Input, please enter your score. All right, now we need to cast this, okay, because whatever comes in here comes as a string, and then I'm dealing with score. Score is a number, okay. You score 20 out of 100, or 40%, or 34.5%, and all that. So score is a number. So because it is a number, I have to cast it. I have to convert it. I have to convert whatever the user enters here is either an integer or a float. Okay, definitely you don't expect us to have to use complex in this case, so we use either an integer or a float. But then I choose to use floats. So the reason why I use floats is that you see, score can come either in whole number or in decimal. Okay, so for instance, now 20.5, 3.5, somebody scores 90 something 0.7, and all of that. So it could come either in whole number or in decimal. So it's just better to use float so that it can serve either of the two. All right. So now this reminds me of something. I'm just going to do a short lesson here. All right. If I had used something like integer, for instance, let me just do it. Let's say x is equal to string 40. Okay, 40 is a string, is a numeric string. Just like anything that will come out from this input statement is going to be a string, even despite the fact that it's a number. It comes out as a string in as much as you use the input statement. Okay, hence the reason why you need to convert it, you need to cast it, okay, using this float. You cast it to a number, a decimal number. Okay, good. So the question is that why didn't I make use of integer? Well, I didn't use integer in this particular case because I'm dealing with score, just as I wouldn't have used integer when I'm dealing with money. When I'm dealing with some amount of money, okay, I don't need to use integer. I have to use floats, okay, so that whether the money is a round figure or the money is not a round figure, yes, it will still be able to accommodate it. So $40 or $40.10 or 300 naira or 300 naira and 40 kobo, you know, all of that. So it will just be able to accommodate it. Okay, now quickly, so we said x is equal to 40, and then if I say print, then I said int, just check what is going to happen here. Print int 40. Okay, sorry, print int x, which means yeah, I want to convert. I've already used this integer to convert to, I am attempting to use integer to convert this 40 from a string into a numeric value. All right, and then I want from a numeric string to a numeric to a number. Then I want the print statement to display it. Okay, so now if I run this program, let me I'm just going to suspend this, just lock it out. Okay, so if I run this program, it's not going to give me an error, okay, because it is 40, and then 40 is in it's already like in the form of an integer, though it was a string. Then we converted it to string. But if I had something like this, maybe if x was 40.6, okay, if you run this program, you are going to get an error report, right? Why? Because it is not Python is not going to allow you to directly convert a string which comes in form of a numeric string which has decimal. Python will not allow you to convert it to an integer straight up. Okay, before you can even convert it to an integer, you need to first convert it to a float. So you need to accept the decimal string the way it is. You need to accept it as a decimal. So you accept it with a float. So you welcome it, okay, with something that looks like it. Float is decimal. This is a decimal string, okay. Float is a decimal, you know, data type, okay. So what you do here is that we first use float, even if you aim at converting this thing to an integer that is a whole number. The procedure is that you first use float. You know, when you use float, Python is never going to complain. It's never going to complain. So it is just going to run the code for you and everything will be fine. All right. So okay, good. This is 40.6 and then it's fine. All right. So when you used integer earlier, it didn't work. But when you used float, it worked. You can even use floats even when it is a whole number. Okay, so this thing looks like an hierarchy, something like a sort of hierarchy. All right, so float is higher than integer. All right, so float can work on both integer and then both whole number and non-whole number. Okay, but integer can only specifically work on a string that comes in form of whole number. Okay, so when we used floats for whole number, it worked. To convert a whole number string to a number, it worked. When you use float to convert a decimal number string to a number, it worked. But when you use integer to do the same thing, it didn't work. It only worked when you used integer to convert a whole number string, or a whole string, whatever is it. Okay, I'm sure you know what I'm trying to say. So now that is the same. It's for the same reason why I have to use float here. So whether this call comes in form of whole number, no problem. Whether it comes as a decimal, still no problem. There is a provision for it. So if I now wish that, okay, whatever comes out of this place, I want it to just be in whole number. I just wish it is so, that regardless of what comes out, it must be in whole number. Then what I will do is that I will first convert whatever string is coming from here. I will first convert it to float. Then from float, I now make it an integer. So if, for instance, we have 40.6, you understand? Float can work on it very well. Then I can now cast it. First, I've cast it from a decimal string to a decimal number. Okay. Then I will now cast it from decimal number. I'll convert it to a whole number. Okay. So now that it has come to the number realm, it is no longer a string, it has come to the number realm, then I can easily work on it with integer and to convert it to a whole number. So if I run this program now, okay, it will give me a whole number 40. Okay, it will cut off the decimal parts and give me a whole number 40. Okay, so you see that. Okay, so you see how it happened from string on whole number to float, okay, which is on whole number. Okay, from on whole numeric string. It's quite funny actually. from an on whole numeric string to an on whole number, then into a whole number. So that is how we did it. So this worked on X, worked on this, and this now worked on whatever comes out of it, and that's what produced this output. Okay, so if we had it like 40.69, whatever is it, okay, you run it, it works. Okay, it gives you 40. Is that clear now? So that is how it works. This is 40.69 as a string, got converted to float, and then to this. So if I have, maybe I say Y, I want to show you how else you could, get it done. So if I say this Y equals to float X, then I now said print int Y. Print int Y. Okay, so you run it. It still gives us the same thing. Okay, all right, so that's how it works. You could just do anything you like. Okay, what I did here, I made X to be this, so I cast it from a string to a float, and saved it as Y. Okay, so you could even do without this bracket, it will still work, and cast it as Y. Okay, and then whatever is it, I converted it to an integer, and it comes out as integer. So that is how it simply works. All right, good. So the same thing would have happened if I did it this way. Let me just take this off. Okay, the same thing would have happened if I did it this way, and I've not started the if statement at all. I just had to explain this one quickly. Okay, all right, then let me say I put it like, okay, print print score. I just want to display whatever comes up here, or maybe I may make it interactive. All right, I can say you scored maybe you put score in subject. Okay, good. So I say print you scored score in subject. So if you run this code, okay, Python is going to give you a prompt and say please enter your subject. You said you put maths, and then you press enter. Say please enter your score, and let's say 40. Okay, 40.8, and then it says you scored 40.8 in maths. Okay, so it's just as simple as that. Okay, now if I had converted this again to integer, it says int, I open it again, so we have 3 brackets now. So string to float, float to integer, and then you run it. Okay, you say please enter your subject, you enter maths, enter your score, 40.76, and it says you scored 40 in maths. Okay, so what it just did is it converted it to an integer, and it displayed it like that. So this is what you would do if you want any score that you want to come up, any score whatsoever. This is what you would do if you want it to come up as a whole number. Okay, but there is a better way to go about this anyway, because there's a disadvantage to this. Casting it directly into an integer from the input statement will remove all the decimal parts without approximating. You can see that ideally this is supposed to be like 41. Okay, so if a student wrote an exam and got 40.76, and you must present the result in a whole number, it is not going to be an advantage to the students if the student's score was rounded down. Okay, it should actually be rounded up, and then this would give you, it's supposed to give you 41, which will be an advantage to a student that have tried this much. Okay, so in order to avoid this kind of thing, what you could do, you can just use the dot formats method. Okay, because it will allow you to even put percentage in if you like, because if you put percentage here, you will be forced to have a space. Reason being that even if you closed this space, okay, you must separate an integer from a string, okay, using a comma when you use this method. Okay, so and then that comma doesn't only separate the integer from the string, that comma also creates a standard spacing of 1 character. All right, so if I run this program, okay, and it says what did you please enter your subject, and I say maths, and it says enter your score, and I say 40.67, and then it says you scored 40 in maths. You see there is a space between this and this, and if I don't want that kind of space to be there, the only way out, or one of the ways out rather, is to make use of placeholders. All right, so placeholders make it easy for you to put things together, to format your string output the way you really want it to be. So what I would have done here is to say you scored here. I'm just going to convert everything to a single string. All right, so and then we have score. Instead of writing score here, I would rather use braces. Okay, and then I'll put percentage on the body of it. Okay, All right, remove all the commas, they won't be necessary anymore. Just put everything in a single string. So then here, subject is no longer a variable, but just put braces, okay, and then remove this. So it says you scored whatever is it, anything you put there percent in any subject that is it, okay, that it is rather. So then after the string, immediately after the string, you put dots, okay, you put dots immediately after the string, and then you write format, dot format. If you hadn't listened to this, watched this lecture before, the lecture on dot format method of string formatting, please just check the video. It's in the playlist, okay, string formatting 1, you see there, okay. I explained different methods of formatting string, and this is just one of the methods, okay. So dot formats, and then you open a bracket and then put the variables in it. The first variable you expect here is the variable of score, so you write score, comma. The second variable you expect here is that of subject, so you write subject, okay, good. So you have score and subject, and then if you run this program, if you run it now, okay, it's going to say, it's saying please enter your subject, right? So if you put maths, okay, and it says please enter your score, you put 34 or something, and then you enter, it says you scored 34%. You see now this percentage gets closer to this 34, to the way you really want it to be. So you say you scored 34% in maths. That is, you scored whatever is it here, percent in whatever is it here, which is replaced by whatever is it as score or as subject, you know, from what the user must have put earlier on, okay. So that is just simply how it works, and it's just perfect, okay. If I do not want to cast this, okay, what if I want to maintain I want the students' performance, the students' performance to, at least to be rounded up to something, instead of the decimal parts to be cut out, but I want it to be rounded up to the nearest whole number. Then this dot format method makes it possible. All I just need to do is to come here, put a colon, and then I can say 0.0f. 0.0f means that whatever floats, okay, any floating value that enters here, any float value that enters here, okay, round it to the nearest whole number. So when I say 0.0f, it means I don't want to see any decimal. If I say 0.1f, it means to 1 decimal place. If I say 0.2f, it means to 2 decimal place. But saying 0.0f, okay, or just .f, I have not tried .f before, but I think it should work. Anyway, so .f or 0.0f means that I just want I want Python to round it off to no decimal place, that is to the nearest whole number, okay. So if I run this code, mind you, I've taken away the integer here, so I want the thing to come as a float value, and then before it becomes rounded off, so that the person's score can be rounded up instead of being rounded down. So when you run this program like this, it says please enter subject. Okay, fine, I want to enter the subject as maths, and then the score as 68.92. And then by the time you press this, it says you scored 69% in maths. So in this case now, it's rounded it off, and then, okay, it cut out the decimal part, but then it approximated it to the nearest whole number. So someone who is supposed to stay at 68 using the other method now has 69, which the person deserves, okay, at least for scoring, for beating something more than the half of the decimal, okay. So like more than 0.5 or 0.4, okay. So the person at least should be rewarded with that extra 1 mark, and then like that. You get what I'm trying to explain? So that's just how it goes, okay. So I'm just explaining all of this because I think the kind of example I want to show you here would need that knowledge, okay. So because this video is getting longer than I expected, I'm going to stop here. Then I'll continue in the next video to explain how we can just use how all of this applies to the example, to using the if statements for the example I want to show you. All right, see you in the next video. Bye.